Ayaw nila yun. They complain. You think because we're abroad, no? Malalim ang bulsa namin, no? I think that before we start asking for their contributions, they have to be made, really be made to feel they are really part, no, of the institution from which they graduated. No? I don't know how we can do that. No? There is a way of doing that, I think, which goes simply beyond sending them our annual reports, no? Or sending them the carillon. No? Baka naman pwedeng yung carillon can be a more glossy type of no. Etc. But there are many other things that can be done before we start tapping their financial capability. But I do agree, Zeni, with your basic premise. You look at all the great universities in the world today, whether it's Berkeley or Stanford or Harvard or Yale, no, or Sorbonne. Many of these are not even, by the way, Chulalongkorn or Thammasat or University of Indonesia or University Science Malaysia. Their dependence on state financing is less than 50%. Yes, it's less than 50%.
Okay.
The is on endowments, precisely. You cannot do without endowments. The only way we can run a modern university.
Sorry. We have a question now from UP Diliman, and the moderator is Professor Vili Buenaventura. Please come in.
Good afternoon, Professor Dalil.
Good afternoon.
Congratulations for your usual high caliber, very excellent speech. I'm very happy to present this afternoon somebody you know and mentioned twice in your speech, Dr. Andrew Abraham.
I know that head.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It does fulfill or answer many of my own queries which we discussed. But the one thing, if you remember, I sent you a text message to say that you should go for the jugular. And by that I meant the ethical responsibility of a university that has created many of the heroes, the rascals, and the tyrants in our political sphere. And the fact that we haven't even gotten into a point whereby we review our own guilt and responsibilities in terms of providing the intellectual bulwark of this tyranny. Why not a nunca más or a nevermore initiated from UP as suggested by Dr. Abeva? We don't have it. The nation, the state doesn't have it. So why can't we start something like that to come to terms so that there's a closure to all of these ethical questions that have been bugging many and many responsible Filipinos?
Drew, mahirap yung question na yan, no? It's a very difficult question. Drew, in effect, is proposing, why doesn't UP imagine itself as a center for ethics? One, because that's not our function. Our function is knowledge, basically, knowledge. It is not morality, which is not to say we have nothing to say about morality. No? Sometimes we expect too much of ourselves, I think. No? It is very easy for an institution like UP, which is just so central to the society in which it finds itself, to imagine itself as the source of all the solutions to the society's problems. No, we can only choose which areas we can make an impact. No? Why? Why do I say this? I say this because we have no control over the ethic. Yun ang sagot ko eh. Why have we been breeding despots and democrats? Why have we been breeding heroes and heels? My answer is because we have not been breeding them alone. We get our students for, at most, an average of 4 years. By the time they get to us, they've already been formed by their families, their communities, by the mass media. By the time they leave us, they would have participated By the time they leave us, even if you have drummed into their ears and into their brains, no, all the ethics that they would need, no, for the rest of their lifetime, it would still be no much, no, because they will be participating in the other institutions of society. No. Why? Why do I say that we should not expect too much of ourselves? Because I really sincerely believe that human beings are more complex than institutions. A human being is subject to all kinds of experiences. The complexity of the human consciousness is so enormous, no single institution can possibly capture it. No. And if one institution even so much as attempts to colonize the consciousness of its graduates, it will surely fail. Believe me. That is why I have been very hesitant. I know, because Pepe Bueva, this was the gist of his lecture. This was the gist also of an earlier lecture by my colleague, Professor De Dios, who was calling for a secular morality. No? I don't think that it is the business of UP, I'm sorry to say, to develop a secular morality or to be the home of ethics. No. Because ethics is plural. Morality is plural. No. As knowledge is plural. Let us stick to what we know. Knowledge. No. Beyond that, no. If you try to convert yourself into a convent or a seminary, no, you're bound to fail. No. You will not have time to teach at all. No? Besides, you will be disappointed by the results. So we do what we can. We do what we can within our classrooms and outside our classrooms. Beyond that, no? I am not saying that we should not have courses in ethics, in moral philosophy. No, by all means we should have courses in the world religions. But I don't think that it is the business of UP to teach any single religion or any single morality or any single ethical system. It would be disastrous to do that because there is just such a variety of ethical systems, and one ethical system that is valid today is not going to be valid tomorrow. No? So, yun ang sagot ko, Andrew, dun sa tanong mo. No? We can debate this if you like. No? This is what I mean by functional differentiation. No? You have to specify which function you think you can play best in the society that you find yourself in the era in which you must operate.
We have a question from UP Los Baños. The moderator is Professor Jerry Yapo.
Hi, Jerry.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Sir David.
Yeah.
I was one of your students in two of your sociology courses in Diliman.
I know.
But here's a question from Professor Alele Domingo of the College of Arts and Sciences. Amidst differentiating internally along functional lines, how do we foster thinking broadly and across disciplines?
I didn't get it exactly.
I will have to read the question. Yeah. Amidst differentiating internally along functional lines, how do we foster thinking broadly and across disciplines?
That's great. It's a great question, Jerry. Was it asked by a sociologist? Yeah. All right. It depends on what you mean by we. If you mean by we, the institution, rather than the faculty or the students, no, then it is institutions that are functionally differentiated. In other words, you have the legal system, you have the educational system, you have the political system, you have the religious system. These are systems without people. As systems, they are systems of communication. It is the people who move through different systems. That's why I said people are more complex than systems. No? In traditional societies like ours, human beings, people, individuals like us, tend to be colonized by just one system. In most instances, it's either the family or the church. In contemporary Philippine society, it tends to be the mass media as a system, no? Or it could be your occupational system. But in the modern world today, and I think Philippine society is really rapidly modernizing, no? Filipinos have developed an agility and an ability to crisscross, participate, get in and out of systems, no? And in the process develop their character and humanity, no? as human beings. No? So, to your question, if the systems are functionally differentiated, who will do the coordinating? Not any of the systems, but rather the people, the individuals who will be traversing these systems. To me, there is quite a danger to assigning the coordination function of systems to one institution. In the past, in traditional feudal societies, that institution was religion. In capitalist society, early capitalism, it was the state. In later capitalist society, it became the economy. To my mind, human societies are moving towards a situation where they're so internally functionally differentiated, and there is no one single supervising or governing systems. They just become autonomous. They just become autonomous. I say this, actually, in a bit of an implied criticism of all ambitions about changing society. Especially in my generation, we all want to see change during our time. You know? And so we imagine ourselves as designing one entire vision and then carrying it out by ourselves, starting from the ground and flattening everything, and then raising something that is entirely new. That is one of the most dangerous illusions, you know, in human history. It had led to Hitler. It had led to experimentations in Eastern Europe and in the Soviet Union. Today, it leads to the kind of interesting market capitalism that you find in China. Has the life of the Chinese, let us say, improved? Maybe, yes, materially. But in exchange for what? For capitalist slavery. For a kind of slavery that cannot be defended, to my mind. No? I think when you have a very dominant system like the state, imagining itself as the watchtower for the whole of society, there you're going to have danger. You're going to have precisely the kind of authoritarianism and the kind of fascism that has marked different stages in human history. And I know I've encountered people in the Philippines who still think like that. No? You cannot enforce a singular vision by yourself without becoming a dictator. And I've always maintained that it is precisely the task of the university as a custodian of knowledge to keep the critical aspect of knowledge. That's why I was quoting the heretical imperative of Berger. That the heretical imperative precisely suggests that a university must breed people who profess ideas not with a pretense to absolute certitude, but always with an acceptance of the limitations of knowledge, with an acceptance of the open-endedness and the uncertainty of knowledge. You know? That, to me, is consistent with the whole spirit of the critical nature of knowledge in the university. If you surrender